Hi there. How are you? How are you all? Hmm. Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me, Bob?
Julie,
Excellent. I can hear
Hi,
you.
Barbara.
oh, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you. I don't know why.
Can everybody else hear me?
I can hear you, Julie.
Thank you, Dan. Oh, thank you, Bob.
I still can't hear you. That's odd.
Hmm.
I'll stand up in the window and I can sign language to you, Barbara.
I still can't. You can hear me, right? And I can't hear you.
Um, yeah, none of us,
Anyway, minutes look good. Thank you.
none of us knows American Sign Language, so we can't.
Let's see if I can remember the alphabet. Yeah, I won't remember it all. Take me forever to get through one word.
Exactly. I mean, if we have to spell this out one word at a time.
Right.
Oh my God. Um, what could be wrong with Barbara here?
I saw Dana today. He will not be here tonight
Okay.
unless he can join later.
Hello.
Ah, it's tropical duty.
How's that?
Oh, it's so
He
much
has
fun.
a sweatshirt on.
I know it. It got cool, but probably all the way down
I
to like
can't
60.
hear you, Judy.
You can't?
Can
How's
you hear
this?
me?
I can.
I know
can
it's
hear you.
weird. I don't know what's wrong with my connection.
Mhm.
Maybe I should come out and go back
Try it
and come
again.
in.
Yeah.
Try
I'll
that.
try that. Yeah.
Yes, it's probably about
I'm not
67
sure what's
here, so I
happening
got a
here.
little chilly.
Well, it
You're-
was
All right.
62 here, so.
Wow, really?
Yeah, seriously,
God.
yes.
That's funny.
But it's 62 New England spring, right? So it's,
Oh,
you know what I mean? It still feels
yes,
sort of
cold.
It was
Is that-
delightful.
underlying whatever threat of
Yes. That you're not out of the woods yet.
I hope not. I need one more snowfall.
I know.
Why?
I know.
why?
There are-
I like snow.
Because there are summer people in the
I have
news
to
winter
try
people.
again. This is strange.
Shoot, that's odd. I bet it's your settings.
Is your volume up on your computer? Not that you could hear me ask that.
Um,
You can't hear us?
You can't.
no, she can't hear us.
Which may be a blessing in disguise.
True.
Huh.
Let's see if I dare
All
risk.
right, I'm gonna go back out again. I have no idea why this is doing this.
Yeah, you might check your volume on your computer.
She can't hear us.
I
That's the
know.
trouble.
Right. Put it in chat.
All right.
She's gone.
Oh, hey, look what's in the background. I forgot about that.
What? The ocean?
The ocean.
Yep,
That looks very, very rugged.
that's up behind the north.
No, I mean it looks like a rugged day.
Yes, yeah, that was a busy day.
I haven't been gone so long that I've forgotten what that was, Bob.
That's
That's
Oh.
next month.
Yeah, but wait a minute. But you're way high up on the hill. You don't get it close up like that.
No, I don't get it's true. I don't get it close up like that. That's true.
I still
Barbara,
can't hear
Can you hear us? Oh,
Is your volume
Okay.
up?
Oh, okay.
Can you hear us?
can you hear us now, Barbara? Barbara?
She's
Yeah.
checking her volume.
Yeah. I had it where it works, but for you important people, it obviously has to be higher.
Yes.
Yes,
We have much louder things to say.
I mean,
yes.
that's where I listen to my amazing TikTok cat videos, but
Oh, boy.
I don't think I've ever seen anything TikTok.
Yeah, I'm not a TikTok guy.
YouTube.
TikTok
They're
cat
wonderful
video.
YouTube cat videos. Trust me.
The
I get them
ultimate
live and in
example-
person here in my house. I don't need videos.
Well, I have those also, but there's some really cute cats online.
Oh,
It's
the
better when you don't have
ultimate
to feed them
development of
anyway.
100 years of information technology is TikTok cat videos.
Yeah.
That's the whole
Okay.
point.
All right, so I don't know what time. What time is it? It is
6:34.
6:34.
6:34. We have a quorum. So present from the Finance Committee, Bob Vanderslice, Judy Zahora, Deborah Warren, Peter Barba, Barbara Beatty, Dan McMacken. Now I have to click the little arrow. Joe, I don't know who Joe is.
Hey, my name's Joe Phillips. I guess I could put my last name there. That's just what it defaulted to. I live over in Little Nahant and just sitting in for the first time.
Oh, well,
Oh,
welcome.
wow. Welcome.
Thank you for joining. Jeff Lewis is here, Allison is here, Tony is here, and Julie Tarmy is here. And the Finance Committee meeting is in order. Let's do approve minutes first.
Okay, we
Could be
have the minutes from
quick.
February 2nd, which everyone should have received by now. Did anybody have any edits or changes or?
I move
Amit-
that we approve the minutes.
I second.
So
All
moved
right.
and seconded. All in favor? We should do this as a roll call.
Yep. Barba,
Aye.
Beatty,
Aye.
McMacken,
Aye.
Carmy, I, Vanderslice,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Zahora.
Hi.
So that is 7 ayes. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Excellent. And then the primary thing on the agenda for tonight is review the budget, which I believe the selectmen finalized last night. So I think I'm just going to turn the floor over to Tony and Allison at this point. And by the way, that came as an email, so you should find in your email copy of the budget, copy of the warrant, and the full text of a couple of the longer bylaw related articles.
Yep, I think Tony is gonna speak to this, unless he wants me to start.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
now
You
we
can, yep.
All right, I'm having some Wi-Fi bandwidth issues, so I'm gonna keep my camera off. Do you want to start with the warrant or do you want to start with the budget?
Moxnix doesn't matter. Moxnix else.
Well, the budget that we put together, that was voted on by the selectmen last night and submitted to you guys today, follows a lot of the same principles that we've agreed upon in the past, using free cash and retained earnings appropriately for one-time capital expenses and debt service. Our estimated free cash for this year is $972,535. Our total general debt due in fiscal year 24 is just about $435,000. A little bit less than that, but just about $435,000.
That's the principal, or that's both principal and interest?
Principal and interest.
Okay, so it's total debt. Okay.
Total debt due the upcoming year. The budget that we've approved through the selectmen and submitted to you has an appropriation towards debt of $678,656. So we're appropriating almost $250,000 $43,000 above what's owed towards debt. What that allows us to do, the way that Allison really structures our debt schedule is we do a lot of short-term borrowing, so that we don't have to go out for long-term bonds, which have higher interest rates. And we're able to pay down principal as we make those payments and reduce the town's costs on interest. That practice not only provides that benefit, but it also provides the benefit of protecting our bond rating. Again, this year, we'll be putting $25,000 into other post-employment benefits, the OPEB account, which will bring that fund balance to $130,000. Another item that helps protect our bond rating. And
Tony?
stabilization, yes?
I'm sorry. So what was the ceiling on that? I mean, how often? I've forgotten how long we were going to add to that.
I believe that our agreement, or I don't know if I should call it an agreement, but our agreed upon priorities was that we would put $25,000 towards that account on an annual basis.
Okay, I
Allison,
didn't-
do you know what as far as Judy's question related to a cap, what the
No,
town's total, like I guess liability is?
So I know what the liability is, over $1 million. But so it would take us a while to get fully funded, but as long as they're putting some money towards it, there's no obligation by when we have to have it fully funded. And it's, it's for health insurance for retired employees. So we do it pay as you go right now, but there is a liability on our books for that.
And that liability is that liability that is above what we pay towards on an annual basis is essentially as if a number of employees retired tomorrow. Is that
Okay.
correct? Is that a good way to explain it?
Exactly. The liability is if all employees retired tomorrow. So
So
Which
it's
is
not-
unlikely to happen.
It's no, so when you say a liability, which you mean it's what the commercial accountants would literally call a liability. Okay,
yep, it's on our balance sheet as a liability, correct?
okay, okay. And have we ever had an actuarial
Yep,
valuation?
I have an actuarial evaluation done every year.
And that's what this is?
Yep.
All right, okay.
Thank you. I just forgotten.
Oh, it's a good question. It's always good, a good refresher to have anyways.
How dare we ask, do you remember top of your head about what that was?
Allison, do you? I don't recall.
Sorry, my son was yelling in the background. I missed the question. Could you repeat it?
What's the actual?
What's the actuarial unfunded?
It's over $1 million. Let me pull up.
No, that's fine. I
We
just
just
wanted-
got our latest report. Here it is. And the unfunded liability,
is-
it's 3.2 million.
Ouch, okay. Understood.
But that, again, that's if everybody retired tomorrow.
Right.
So the $25,000 that we put towards OPEB on an annual basis was a number that we actually got from the Division of Local Services based on the number that Allison had just explained to you guys. And they said that that was enough, a healthy amount for us to do on an annual basis to protect our bond rating and to protect us for actual, realistic numbers of retirement.
All right, and it's enough to cover whatever our real liability is for the upcoming year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And, you know, since in 2018, the first budget that I worked on with your committee, I think our balance was somewhere around like $3,000 in that account.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've made it a priority, and now with this year's budget, if this number gets approved, our balance will be at $130,000. So we've made a lot of progress there.
Yeah, exactly. We're going in the right direction. Good.
Stabilization, similar scenario. We're recommending $200,000 to be put towards the stabilization fund. This will bring our fund balance to $870,000. The budget that we're presenting to you is a 3.56% increase compared to fiscal year 23. We are still going through contract negotiations. We're comfortable with the numbers that we have in the upcoming year's budget related to salaries. We still have some finalizing to do on those contracts, but we're comfortable with the numbers that we have in our budget for that. And as far as major capital items that we are expecting to use the other part of free cash towards, we have two large dump trucks at the DPW that are probably about a year away from needing to be replaced, but the lead time on replacing them is about a year and a half. So we're recommending that we use $150,000 from our ARPA account and $150,000 from our retained earnings account. This would be purchasing them outright without having to borrow for them at all.
Oh, so some of this is coming out of water and sewer enterprise fund.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the retained earnings piece.
Yep.
Tony, at some
Yes.
point, would you let us know how much do we have left in ARPA funding?
Well, with what we're proposing, we'll have, Allison will know the number, but I think it's somewhere around $80,000 or $90,000.
$85,000 we'll have left after.
We do have to spend that money by December of 2024. Is that right, Allison?
Yeah, I thought there was yeah. Thank you.
So similar to last year, we used some funds from ARPA to cut the cost of our fire truck in half. Similar approach here, cutting the cost of these two trucks in half by using ARPA for half and using retained earnings for the other.
So why would we not just use everything we've got available to us?
Well, we still have another year, before we have to spend the funds.
I know,
We
but
know
why,
that
I mean,
there-
why not just, it's sitting there. Why not just use
Well,
it?
because we don't know what next year's free cash numbers are going to be. And so it makes more sense to hold on to that $85,000 to potentially be there to supplement capital purchases next year if we need it.
So we have to pay for these trucks up front? Even though it's gonna be 2 years before we get it, year and a half before we get it?
No, we don't pay for them up front.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
We have to put
We
the
enter
order
a
in
contract, but we have to have the funds available, but we do not pay for them until the trucks are actually delivered.
We
But we
have to
can't
have-
enter the contract until we have the funds available.
Right.
Correct.
So
we
we have to at
have to
least put
have
it aside.
You have to commit the funds. Mhm.
we have to have it appropriated.
Right.
Right, okay.
Oh, and do we really need 2 dump trucks?
Yes, they're actually a core piece to not just our water sewer needs, but also our snow removal needs in the town. Those two large dump trucks have been a key piece to the fleet for years.
Now, didn't
So-
we buy, what did we buy? We bought some other truck last year.
We bought a small dump truck
Yes,
last year.
Right.
And we also authorized funding for a front end loader.
right.
Oh,
I
that's
knew we
right.
had bought one dump truck last year. So what you're saying is we need two more bigger.
These are
Dump
the
trucks.
large, yeah, these are the large heavy duty trucks. These trucks are used for, bringing in gravel or removing material when we dig a hole to do underground utility work, or bringing in hot top for paving work. And they're also used, there are larger trucks that are used for like main road snow removal. So they carry the largest plows and sander equipment.
What
And
is
the
the
ones
life
that-
of a dump truck?
Yeah, that's what I
Huh.
was gonna ask.
What's the lifespan?
Yeah, roughly.
Probably, I think probably around like 12 years, I would say. Zach would have a better answer when you guys meet with him.
But Tony, we
I
need,
think-
as a little town, we need two bigs and a little dump truck? That seems like a lot.
I agree.
I mean, all of our current fleet at the DPW is not overextended, I don't think whatsoever. I think it's perfectly suited for the services that we provide.
Okay.
I think I think our DPW does a great job especially when it comes to snow removal. They do a great job at making sure that all of our roads are clear for emergency vehicles consistently throughout a storm. And those two pieces of equipment are a big piece of that.
Oh, no,
the other-
I don't want to anyway think that I don't agree with you. I absolutely agree that they do a phenomenal job. Just didn't understand that we needed that many trucks in a little place.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big, we have a decent sized fleet. It's not, I think it's appropriate for the size of our town. I don't think it's overextended in any way.
Okay.
And I think that these, the two trucks that we have were purchased at the same time. So they're the same age, they have the same wear and tear.
So we're gonna have the
And-
same problem then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think,
So is there some way to spread it out so that we
mean
don't have to
stagger?
retire and replace
Yes.
them at the same time?
Yeah,
Yes, we
there's,
start to try to build a gap now for 24 or 36 months before retirement of the rolling stock with a little extra stewardship. Obviously, with more spending on maintenance, the trucks will be kept running indefinitely, although it becomes a sinkhole. But with some higher level of stewardship of these vehicles, we could extend one of them 36 months, so we wouldn't get whacked with two at once in subsequent years.
I
So
think
you're saying
under
we
the-
could, you're saying we could stagger the purchases?
oh, I think what Dan's suggesting is you start now by maybe extending, maybe only buying one in a
Right.
year, and then one in 2 years. And then the next time you need to buy trucks, you maybe buy one and then you wait 2 years, so that eventually you have if
Stagger.
they're 12-year span, you're buying a truck every 6 years.
Right.
Does that,
But the
is
deal
that
with-
something we could work towards, Tony?
But the thing is, we want to be able to use the ARPA funds.
True.
So we could
That
buy
makes
one
sense.
now with some ARPA and then one next year with other ARPA, but we have to finish using the ARPA next year.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's a good point. That is a good point. The
Or
other
ARPA.
point, I think what Dan was saying makes sense, but I think you have to, that's something to strive for with the two new trucks. The two current trucks are at the end of their life.
couldn't
And
we
you're
wait?
under new stewardship now. So we have the ability to maybe stagger the next purchase. But right now, these two trucks are in need of replacement. And it's a 1.5 year delay from
But you
when
don't
we
think
put
we
the
could
order
wait
in.
for another year, which would start the staggering a little bit? In other words, buy one now with ARPA and one next year with ARPA?
I think that these
To the
two,
two, and
I think these two items, these two pieces of our fleet are too important, and it's not necessary to try to take that risk.
Okay,
I wouldn't want to be down a year with only one of them. You know,
Okay.
they're not like a small dump or a utility bed truck or a pickup truck. These are two large dump trucks, core pieces of the fleet.
And did you say how much they cost?
They're about $150,000 each, and that comes with, you know, the full sander and plow setup.
And how about maintenance? Is any of that built into the purchase?
No, that's
mean, warranty.
built into the DPW's budget on an annual basis.
Oh,
And that, you know, equipment maintenance costs go across the board to all the vehicles and equipment that the DPW has.
Dan, maybe you would know, $150,000. That doesn't sound like a lot to me for a big fancy truck. Dan, what do you think about?
I think we're buying well. I think that number is good. It tells me
I-
that our leadership's doing a good job buying.
That's what I thought. I was expecting you to say it was going to cost a lot more. Some
Well-
people spend that for cars.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Some of that value is with the trade-in value of our current trucks. So trading in our current trucks will go towards the purchase price of the new trucks. So we are getting a little bit of a better deal by utilizing the current value of our existing trucks. But these are Ford dump trucks. I know Zach also requested pricing from Mack and International, and those were much higher. But the current trucks that we have are Fords, and they've served the town pretty well. So comfortable with the purchase, with the product that we're trying to purchase here.
And Dan, that's good to hear that you think this is a good price. Good.
Any, and I don't know, I'm just asking the question, not to be confrontational or anything, but are there any lease programs when it comes to town trucks and things like that? I'm just curious. It's not, you know.
There are.
And
But you're always like if we're keeping our trucks, when you look at lease versus outright purchase, the benefit of the lease really comes in the short term, where we're holding on to our trucks for so long that purchasing them outright and not having to make payments on them, and we have them for 10, 12, sometimes 15 years. The value is in the purchase.
yeah, I'm wondering what kind of things we can do to lengthen the time that we have them.
well, something we might want to kick around, and probably should do this with Zach and the DPW meeting. Could we, and I am literally thinking out loud and outside the box, could we perhaps buy a used truck for one of the two that we know has a shorter lifespan, but we could get at a much more attractive price, retire the thing 5 years from now, and then we've kind of solved our problem of having a cycle rather than two all at once every time.
That's a great idea to create the interval.
It's a good idea to create the interval. However, you're forgetting about the remaining fleet,
ARPA.
right? So every year that I've presented a budget to you, we've come to you for a new vehicle for the DPW fleet. So already things are staggered in a way where, you know, we're buying a backhoe, then the next year we're doing a front end loader and a pickup truck, and then we're doing a small dump. This year we're doing 2 dumps.
Right. So you've
next
already built the
year-
staggering in, we're just not seeing the big pictures.
Yeah. So if you look at Zach's capital plan, especially and when zero in on his fleet, like next year, he's going to be coming to us for a beach rake tractor. So, you know,
What's that?
Things are already staggered in a sense.
I think a beach rake is the thing that rakes up all the nasty smelling seaweed.
Right.
The rake is cheap. The thing that pulls it costs a bunch of dough.
Oh, rake. I thought you said rig. Okay,
Beach rake, yeah, it's
Yeah,
essentially
okay.
it's a tractor with a big rake on the back.
sure.
So that's probably that's the largest capital item. Another large or kind of large is our $50,000 we're putting towards our Council on Aging kitchen renovation. This project is funded from a number of different sources that has already been accomplished. We have $50,000 from the current fiscal year state budget. We worked with our legislators, our state legislators. They were able to acquire $50,000 in the state budget for this project. It needs to be spent by the end of the fiscal year. We have $50,000 from a previously approved CPC application that you guys might remember. I think it was 2 town meetings ago. And then there's $13,000 from the Friends of the Council on Aging. So with this appropriation, it gives us a total of $163,000, which will allow us to hire a certified architect and go through the proper procurement process and rebuild the commercial kitchen that is used to satisfy the Council on Aging program.
And it is well past its prime.
Yeah.
Definitely needs to be done.
Definitely needs to be done. I mean, we've also talked about with this project, we could potentially use the off hours so when Council on Aging isn't utilizing the kitchen afternoons and weekends, we could actually potentially use the new kitchen as a revenue source and rent it as a community kitchen. So there's a lot of chefs and bakers in town that actually do a lot of that work for public events or fundraising efforts and things of that nature, but they don't have a certified kitchen to cook in or bake in. So we could actually use the kitchen as a potential revenue stream and rent the space out as a community kitchen in the
I
future.
mean, Tony, to be fair, I mean, that's certainly true, but that comes with a lot of administrative and overhead, right? So someone's got to make certain that kitchen's upkept all the time. And then someone's got to keep the coordination of the kitchen. So that sounds like a lot more work than maybe you want to get into.
Yeah, maybe. Just, we're trying to, community kitchen it's something that's come up a lot in the past. And it's something that actually just opened up in Lynn. They did something in Lynn. They built a community kitchen, a lot of popularity on it. A lot of need for it. And, it's something that I think we have a lot of culinary experts in our town that would, be interested in being able to rent the space. It's definitely not a necessity, but it's an idea of it's an
Well, of course, it
idea to bring in
depends.
additional funds.
It depends how much we can rent it for,
Mhm.
whether it's worth the overhead.
I mean, I don't know if Tony, if you're thinking of this, but I actually have a friend who I'm not even sure. I think they live out in Hyde Park. They have a community kitchen like this, and his wife actually started a very successful cupcake business. She now has a storefront and her own kitchen, but literally started her business in a community kitchen that was owned by, I think, the city of Boston or some organization like that. So it definitely is it can be a revenue stream, and it could also help entrepreneurs off the ground. So
Yeah, and I mean the primary purpose of this usage of the free cash towards this capital item is because the Council on Aging is desperately in need of a new kitchen. It's just an
Yeah.
added benefit that we were considering.
If you've ever been in that kitchen, it's deplorable might be a kind word. It's in pretty bad shape. I mean, I'm sure it was state of the art when it was first built in the, I don't know, the early 15th century, but it is definitely needs a renovation.
And what you're saying is we're lucky it passes inspection.
That is it. Yeah, we probably are. It's just an old kitchen, and and they do. It's Council on Aging does I am fortunate that over the last year or so, I've helped out with the Veterans Food Bank, and we've held it up in the town hall, so I kind of see what goes on a little bit. So if you haven't been around and seen it, it's definitely worth seeing in action.
They have 35, 40 people a day. Every day. And they do an amazing job. And
I didn't realize they had that many people every day. Wow.
oh yeah. And
And volunteer chefs too, as well.
Yeah. And it's probably the reason I'm, 10 pounds, 20 pounds overweight, because the smell just emanates through the entire town hall. So it's hard to stay away.
The menu has improved in the last couple of years. It's really very good. Very good.
I definitely think if we have, nice new facilities, it would be worth examining having them used for income purposes.
Right.
Cupcakes.
But I think that the other, of course, it's the purpose of these funds is valuable in and of itself, but it's been a creative process to get to this point. So getting a CPC application, getting funding from the state, getting private fundraising from residents, it's a group effort here. So there's that value in this project as well. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about in this budget? We do have our one part of our budget that will likely stand out. I think you guys will speak with the school about is a 19.25% increase on school transportation.
Yeah.
It's a big part of why our budget is increasing by 3.5% compared to last year. It's Tony Parentozzi's worked very hard to find the best transportation rates for the town. It's not an issue that just our town is facing.
Yeah.
Many communities are facing a similar challenge.
It's gas and all that kind of stuff is just skyrocketed.
Mm.
And we don't have a choice. We have to do that transportation. So, yeah.
I'm sure that Tony has done his legwork on finding the best, deal.
Yes, he has, definitely.
He's a thorough guy.
And the other new item in here is we've created a utility reserve fund. This, I have to give Allison a lot of credit on this one. This is her idea, and I fully support it. Utility rates have been extremely volatile, and every 6 months have gone significantly higher and decreased. And we've done a pretty good job at dealing with it. However, we got a lot of requests from our department heads for significant increases in their individual utility line items in their budgets. And so what we decided to do was we asked them each to follow this traditional trend of 2 to 2.5% increase compared to last year in their individual department budgets related to utilities. And we created a $25,000 utility reserve fund. So the way that would work is because it's hard to predict how those rates are going to be as we go through the next fiscal year, they will utilize their department budgets to pay their utility bills up front. And if they exceed that amount, they can go through Allison to utilize the reserve fund account to pay the remaining amount of their bills.
Okay, so this is,
Allison, sounds like a really good idea. Very good idea. Thank
this
you.
is a reserve. It's limited to utilities and it's under the control of the town accountant?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, as
And
you
then
guys,
any unused funds, anything not used would revert to free cash, but it just, it takes a little bit of that volatility out of the department budgets and allows the town to have a little bit more control over that, instead of if we increased individual department budgets by, we were seeing 5 and 10% requests. And if that wasn't needed, they do still have the ability to spend it once it's in their budget. So this kind of takes out that whole,
And
know.
if we were to take all of the department's utility budgets and then add in the reserve fund, about what percent increase would that represent over the prior year? That was really lousy grammar. I apologize.
So in each department budget, their utility lines only increased by 2%.
Okay.
The utility reserve is 25,000. I would have to see what that is. That's obviously 100% because it's new. So I'd have to quickly calculate, which I can do if you guys want to keep talking, and I'll get back to you.
That's fine. Okay, cool.
So our revenue estimates are conservative at this point. We still are waiting for our final numbers from the state budget. We also are still waiting on some assessment numbers from Lynn Water and Sewer. We just got our MWRA assessment number yesterday, so we quickly added that into the budget before the Board of Selectmen voted. So there may still be some changes coming. Our free cash estimate still needs to be certified by the state. They are, I think they're a little bit behind schedule on certifying free cash, but they're working hard to get answers out to all the towns, knowing, where we are in our schedule.
Right. And you said that the expense side of this represents like a roughly 3.5% increase.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make that up on the revenue side?
Right, we're only proposition 2.5 says we should only go up 2.5%.
Right,
So
exactly.
I can get that. Some of it, that 3.5% takes into consideration that water and sewer debt shift too, which will be increasing in FY24 because of, we authorized $18 million in sewer borrowing. The Linway project is almost done, and we're bonding long-term for that. So our first principal and interest payments will be in FY24. So the debt shift number is 1.2 million that's being raised on the property tax rate in FY24. So that revenue, the 3.5% includes that debt shift number, I guess. That's
Okay. So
we also expect some new revenues for local receipts. The short-term rental, which, is going to affect where Tony can talk more about it. He knows the ins and outs of it. But if we have short-term rentals registering, they'll also have to pay for inspections. So I included that in our FY24 budget as a new revenue source. It'll also be our first full year of collecting the short-term rental excise tax that we adopted. So that'll be a little bit of extra revenue for the town as well.
Didn't you say it was it was something like $40,000 last year that we got from them, or what was that?
So in
That's
FY
more.
22, it wasn't a full year and we collected $74,000.
Oh.
And I think we talked about this the last time, which is the Coast Guard housing loan is actually due on the first day of 2025.
It's January 2025. Mhm.
Okay. But so we would need to, that needs to be considered, I guess, in our budget for 2025.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
so I have in the materials that Tony sent tonight, there's a debt schedule in there. And in FY 25, you'll see that principal amount in the column there on the debt schedule.
A lot of silence.
Yeah, it is a lot of silence.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the warrant.
I could probably do it and share it if you want.
Please.
Yes.
Right. Now we're gonna have more silence while I try to do it.
Well, while we're having the silence, the good news is that the CPC only had 8 applications
Oh,
this year, so that'd be a lot shorter.
Really? Only 8?
Only 8. They had 9, one was withdrawn. So
Wait, that's so funny. They had, a gazillion last year. What the heck?
what do you
Hey,
think?
Judy, you're not going to have to read such a long script this year.
oh,
Yeah, I
that's good.
appreciate that. Thank you. I do appreciate that. But so surprised. What's the why?
That's all that came in.
Yeah, the town submitted, I submitted 2 and Diane had submitted 1.
Yep, Open Space had 2.
Mhm.
The Nahant Historical Society had 1.
How interesting, because we haven't had that little in years and years.
Did the pickleball people submit?
Football. That was the
Yes,
last one.
pickleball submit as well. Yep.
Oh, good.
Town of Nahant, Historical Society, Open Space, Town of Nahant, Town of Nahant. And, yep, football. Yep.
We have, I would, I think it's a good thing, but we actually have some catch up to do on completing projects that have already been authorized.
Right.
So, which isn't a bad thing. It just takes time to get these projects going. And we've done a lot of work over the last few years and we still have some authorization that we need to take advantage of. So we were the town was kind of in a position to, I think we're going to be focused on catching up. And the other 2 items that we put forward to CPC were funds related to rights of ways. And the other one was for the Kelly Greens Golf Course, tree planting, and other items related to that.
And they're anticipating about a 70% match. So that's good.
That's really good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they should see they'll have a good source of funds this year. And whatever they don't spend will go into the retained earnings and into their reserve account, which will be
Right.
able to use in the future year.
It's kind of a shame that we don't have more to enjoy that match.
Well, the historical society's happy.
Yeah, well, Star Society is smart.
All right, anyway, so I think I just shared the warrant. Can you see it?
No,
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 In that packet that Tony sent, you can pull it up for yourself, I think. I couldn't.
Oh, because I have to hit Zoom. Now you should be able to see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Forgot Zoom is weird that way.
I did just calculate, Bob, your question regarding the increase in electric and gas. And so the budgeted amount that we're proposing for FY '24 would be a 17% increase over what was budgeted for FY '23 for electric and gas.
Ouch, but it's probably not unreasonable.
and any amount in that reserve that doesn't get spent will just drop to free cash for a future year.
Okay. And if we find ourselves going over, it's just kind of business as usual. Where is it going to come from? Pull it out of reserve fund or wherever.
Right, we could come to you for a reserve fund transfer.
Yeah.
Or at a future town meeting, or at the end of the year, we could have a vote to transfer funds from other accounts to make up the difference.
Yeah, I don't know. If the town's experience is anything like our personal experience, that may be underfunded.
Mhm.
All right, at any rate, so there you go. There's the warrant, and if you just let me know, I can page up or page down through that.
Sure. Town meeting's gonna be at the town hall on Saturday, May 20th, starting at 12:30 PM. Our first set of articles here are traditional. First one is transfers for the current fiscal year that we're in, what we were just discussing. So using a town meeting vote if necessary to transfer funds that were previously voted on by last year's town meeting in the current fiscal year. Article 2 is snow and ice. So if we need to transfer funds into the snow and ice account to make up for costs. Allison, do we have, I'm putting you on the spot, another on the spot question. I mean, we haven't had a very rough winter. So do you know where we are with our snow and ice budget?
We are in a deficit right now. So we only appropriate 30,000. This is the one account that you're allowed to spend to a deficit. So that's why we keep the budget at 30,000. We have gone over that slightly just because Zach has stocked up on salt. I would say we might be 15,000 over right now. I can
That's not bad at all. As you guys can remember, you know, it's in a and we should be knocking on wood, by the way, because we're not out of the clear yet, but
Tony, what's our average rate? Because this has been, not that I have any personal experience, a very light winter.
yeah, average, I mean, usually we're like closer to 80 or $100,000 in snow and ice costs. So if Allison's saying we're more like 45, that's pretty good.
Okay.
And usually what we'll do is, as Allison has said, is Zach will, the DPW, they'll stock up on salt. So they'll take advantage of you know, market rates and availability and fill the salt shed so it's available to us when we need it. So sometimes it's purchasing ahead of time.
How long can you store salt?
I mean, we don't, we'll have a full salt shed for the summer. But we usually, we'll go through it. We'll certainly use it every year. Article 3 is prior year bills. I don't know if we have any yet, but this article is used for any bills that we get from a previous fiscal year that require a town meeting vote. Article 4.
Some of those come in at the very late, isn't that so?
We usually wait until the end, you know, as late as possible to give you the full group of them. we may have a bill now that we know is gonna be on there, but another bill may come in. or
Weren't there
come
some though that we didn't even get before town meeting?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. Usually we're letting you guys know about those, and then the morning of, we'll make, you guys will have a meeting and make your final votes on any type of transfers or prior year bills.
Yeah, the only way the town can pay a prior year bill is through town meeting approval.
Bob, do you mind scrolling down a little bit?
Sleep at the switch, sorry. AJ. Hang on.
It's all right. Article 4 is the salary classification plan. Article, oh, you went a little far. Article 5.
I can only do like whole sections at a time.
Okay. Article 4 is the salary classification plan. Those numbers will be finalized when we finalize our union contract negotiations.
And you've already built that into the omnibus.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Article 5 is compensation for elected positions.
What happened? Oh, wait.
Where's Article 6?
Oh, yeah, here we go. That's better. Sorry.
Article 6 is the
I just learned
omnibus
something.
budget. Water and sewer enterprise, Article 7, Article 8, water sewer paving. Usually we have $30,000 from water sewer retained earnings going towards paving needs. This year we've increased that to 50, mostly because of honestly because of the cost of the material. We've seen an increase in that, and it's been at $30,000 for a long time. But we also have we also don't need to spend the funds if we don't run into major water sewer issues that require paving. So it's good to have the funds there available to you. Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll spend all 50,000. Article 9 is approving the same. This is the rubbish enterprise account. As you can see in Article 10, we typically use funds from the enterprise account of the rubbish enterprise account to go towards the compost area. We've been able to get ahead on a lot of the removal of the historical material that's been there. The last few years, we put $50,000 in that in Article 10. This year, we're bringing it down to 30.
Why does 10 have to be done through a warrant article?
Because it's using enterprise funds.
Yeah, we've done that in the past.
No, I know we've done it in the past. I just saw it and okay.
Did I get the answer right, Allison?
It's kind of. It's the town meeting has to vote on the appropriation of retained earnings. So this is, 30,000 of retained earnings in the rubbish enterprise would be transferred to the capital account that we have set up for the compost area. So it does require a town meeting vote.
So could we not just make that a line item in the rubbish enterprise account and then?
It can be.
And
Yep.
it is in there. There is a capital line in there, right?
No, for rubbish, there actually isn't. So how I reflect this in the accounting system, it looks like a transfer out from the rubbish account, and we have a separate capital account set up for the compost area. So technically we could appropriate this $30,000 in the rubbish article. It would be the same thing. We would just be appropriating it under Article 9. This has been called out separately before, so That's why we've kind of kept it, separate. But you're right, it could be appropriated under Article 9.
Okay, I mean, it's not a biggie. It just,
Mhm.
I saw it and I had an epiphany. All right.
Article 11 and 12 are standard articles related to recreation revolving and other revolving accounts that we've completed in previous years. Article 13 is the $25,000 going towards the other post-employment benefits account, and Article 14 is the 200,000 going towards stabilization. Article 15 is borrowing $100,000 to go towards paving. That's standard amount that we do on an annual basis. Article 16 is the Council on Aging kitchen. Article 17 is, these are the funds that we get a portion of funds collected for every transportation network purchase that occurs in Nahant. So what this is like Ubers and Lyfts. We get a percentage of that revenue. But we've been required to appropriate the funds through town meeting vote. However, we just got some guidance that after this year, we won't need any amount less than $25,000 will no longer require a town meeting appropriation. So this will be the last year we need to do this. As you can see, it's only $724. We put it towards paving or street signs or some transportation related expense.
Tony, how do we know?
How do we know what? How much we get?
No, how do we know that we're getting the amount that we're supposed to?
Well, they're required to report that to the state. I think it's similar. It's a similar scenario. Like it's a similar setup as like our meals tax and hotels tax.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I guess I couldn't. I guess we don't investigate it on our own. I guess we do assume that the state is, appropriately calculating how much is owed to the town.
I need the air horn.
Article 18 is sewer DPW capital. This is the 2 dump trucks. As you can see here, we put the total amount in here for the cost of the trucks, but as I mentioned to you previously, only $150,000 is actually going to come from the general fund. MWRA borrowing, Article 19 is that 0 interest loan of $500,000. We ask for the authorization on an annual basis. This loan program we use for upgrades to our water system. So in years past, we were able to redo the water system on Howe Road and Furbush Road and Walton Road. Upcoming projects include Fox Hill Road and I think Intervale. I have to double check what the other road is, but Fox Hill Road is going to be a big project. Article 20 is Chapter 90 Highway. This is giving us the authorization to appropriate the funds that we receive through Chapter 90 for paving projects. That's usually about just under $100,000 is usually what we get for that. Article 21, this will be the CPC projects. We don't have them yet. Article 22 is the Open Space Committee requested to amend our general bylaws to formalize the Open Space Committee as a standing committee within the town's general bylaws. and added 2 more seats to their committee. I don't know if you guys recall, but in the past, the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee, it was authorized by previous town meeting votes, but they didn't actually, those votes actually didn't amend the general bylaws. So they were a town meeting created committee that we would have to vote to continue on an annual basis. This would formalize them into the general bylaws. We wouldn't have to, reauthorize them on an annual basis. And it would kind of create a little bit more formal structure to the committee. The full language of this article, I sent you the draft version of the article that was proposed to us from the committee. Dan is still reviewing that and double checking some of the state law related to open space committees. And once that language is finalized, that will be provided to you. It'll be at the town clerk's office, available online. It'll be featured as an appendix in your book. But this is what the article will look like. You know, it's common when we have a long bylaw article that we put more of a brief article in the warrant and then reference the longer version and where to get it. Any questions on that? Article 23, this is amending the police bylaws. This has to do with our coyote issues in our town. We want to strengthen our town bylaws regarding feeding of wildlife, which can cause problems related to coyotes and other wildlife in our community. So we've looked at our existing bylaws. We've looked at what the Attorney General's office has approved for other communities' bylaws related to feeding of wildlife. We got additional information from some of the wildlife groups that have been involved in the conversation related to coyotes, and we put together this bylaw that the full copy I sent to you guys in that email. But this is the brief description of it here in the warrant.
Tony.
I ask a question about this one.
Sure.
I had a chance to just skim it. Have you gotten any feedback on it? Because in my understanding, I may not have understood it correctly, is it includes not having bird feeders anymore. Is that correct?
I believe the way that it's said is it's bird feeders that contribute to feeding of the wildlife that are problematic. So not all bird feeders are problematic. It's really like a bird feeder that's dumping feed onto the ground.
Right.
And then it really comes down to an enforcement issue.
I was going to ask you, how are you going to do enforcement?
Really,
on
that
bird
sounds like a
feeders?
lot of work.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we are fully involved in a lot of work related to coyotes already as a and
Yeah, we get that.
And so when we do find a food source, we need, the legal backing to be able to approach a resident and say, this is an issue, it's causing problems for the town and for the neighborhood. And it's not allowed. So you need to take care of this issue. Certainly, the town, never are we approaching a situation with severe fines out of the gate. We're always working with the residents to help them understand what the problem is first. And usually it starts with a conversation before it gets into some sort of significant fine situation.
I do think there's probably going to be discussion about this at town meeting. bird feeders, it's very difficult to get bird feeders that don't drip bird feed, whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure there are going to be concerns from people who see feeding birds as a very important act of sort of natural support.
I think you're right, Barbara. I think that's going to cause this.
I'm
The
not
way it's written-
opposing it. I'm just saying, Judy, you agree with
No,
me.
no,
right?
I actually do agree with you. I think that it's not written well for that.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it leaves too much interpretation, too much of a fuss, and frankly, the squirrels make their day trying to figure out how to get to bird feeders. So I think this is going to frankly piss a lot of people off.
It will. That's what I
I'm
was
one of those-
thinking.
I'm one of those people that we've been feeding the birds since we used to have pheasants in town. But I have not put anything in my bird feeders for the last year and a half because of the coyotes.
Really,
Yeah, I
because
took
there's
mine down.
So I
We've-
think a lot of people are gonna understand that part of it, as I have. I mean, I've seen 10 coyotes out in my side yard just playing around, so I'm not putting anything out. So
Yeah,
I think
I took my bird feeders down, and in part also there's the avian flu issue,
Right.
which I read about that a lot. So I just decided for a number of reasons to take my bird feeders down. But I know there are people who,
I'm sure some enterprising person is gonna come up with the new design of bird feeders that will not keep the squirrels out, but
Oh,
may
they've tried
have a
for,
larger plate. that
but
the
they've been trying
squirrels
for
can walk.
decades. Been trying for decades and haven't come up with a good one.
I know. Well,
So
they'll-
the article,
Yep.
so the text of the article reads, this article shall not be interpreted so as to prohibit bird feeders.
okay. Well, then
If-
that saves that.
If, however, a bird feeder is determined by a designated enforcement authority to be the cause of a public safety threat or nuisance, the bird feeders and said debris will be required to be removed within 48 hours. So it's really, it's not an elimination of bird feeders in any sense. It's really, if a bird feeder is determined to be the cause of, a food source, it's becoming an issue. We just want to be able to have some legal backing to approach a resident and say, this needs to
It
be
doesn't
taken
say
care
who
of.
determines it. The
I was going
ACO
to say,
should
but
determine
determined
it.
by whom, Tony? That's
The
that's
ACO
trouble.
should determine it and it should be in the language.
Well, it says an authorized, I forget what did I just say? Of course, I X'd out of it after I read it. Hold on.
The
A
authorized,
designated enforcement authority.
right? What
So
does that mean?
that could be the ACO, it could be a public health agent. Well, most likely it would be the animal control officer.
And with most maybe I would think by neighbors ratting them out, That's,
No, that's what I worry about.
Yeah,
Well, no, I mean, it's really gonna be, most of this stuff is like people leaving bowls of food out for wild animals or throwing, loaves of bread out on the curb or in a park for wild animals, feeding wildlife intentionally. That's mostly what this is about. Bird feeders are not the intention of the article.
No, I know.
Right, but I don't know.
it just jumped
Are
off
there,
the
are
page.
they
at me.
collateral damage?
That's what I worry about too.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do I say this? But I mean, this just has kind of the appearance of
Big brother?
Big Brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
what? What did you say, Judy?
Big brother.
Oh.
When we get to the point where we're monitoring people's bird feeders as if they're a nuisance or not, depending on whomever is the regulated authority, it worries me.
Well, but cities have been doing that forever with the rat problem, for example.
Yeah,
Um,
it's hard to equate birds with rats, but you're not wrong.
I'm not equating birds with rats, I'm equating rats with coyotes. You know, when you leave food out, or trash or rubbish or whatever, you know, towns do have typically have the authority to do something.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just think
and
it's gonna
it's
be
and
tough.
it's certainly not, it's not, the town's not gonna be out there monitoring bird feeders. It's more so when we have a public safety issue related to coyotes and we're identifying that they're aggressive in a certain neighborhood because there's a food source in the area, that we have a bylaw that allows us to legally be able to fix that problem and potentially prevent public safety issues from occurring.
Now,
But
is this some article?
I'll tell
gonna
you,
be limited?
I'll tell you, we do not have the resources to be monitoring bird feeders across around town.
Tony, is this
Tony,
article going to be limited to coyotes?
No,
mean-
it's wildlife.
Wildlife, okay, feeding wildlife, yeah.
Mhm.
When bird feeders are outlawed, outlaws will have bird feeders.
Listen, I don't disagree with a lot of the comments that you guys are making. And I think it will be a topic of conversation. This is like it's like, it reminds me of like the leaf blower, you know, town meeting conversation about noise and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you know,
Right.
the coyote issue that we have in town is a serious one. And you know, this is one of those areas that we don't score well when we are, you know, articulating to the state the issue that we have in our town. And this is an area where we score poorly because we don't have a bylaw that says it's illegal to feed wildlife.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just to be clear, I absolutely agree with the intent of this. I'm just worried about the optics of it. Are there other towns nearby that have such a bylaw? And how does this track against those?
yeah, Council Dan Script essentially looked at our existing bylaws related to littering and waste. And then he looked at where we lacked language related to feeding wildlife. And then he looked at what the Attorney General has already approved for other communities related to feeding wildlife bylaws. So
Salem has no feeding wildlife. I was speaking with a city councilor there just last night, and she said because of the coyote problem, they had to have a wildlife and no wildlife feeding bylaw. So they're doing it in Salem.
mhm.
Wow.
I would suggest that we move the article to the very end of town meeting when people are eager to leave. Otherwise, this is going to take hours.
I think you're exactly right, Tim.
I think there's a lot of wisdom there, yeah. And we ought to be very careful about how we present it to the town.
It's
I
very
mean, our
close.
recommendations,
Well, I mean, yeah, that's probably how the income contribute to it. But also whoever is going to stand up on town meeting floor and speak to it. And, you know, as Tony is doing his pre-town meeting public meetings as well.
I
Bob,
think
what do
that-
when you say optics, how are you thinking, what would ameliorate the problem? How would it?
Well, I think starting by saying that other communities nearby are doing this is a very important introduction. So we're following along with Salem, and you know, I think that frames it as something that's
Yeah.
we're not getting out and being different. We're doing what other communities are being forced to do for similar reasons. I think that's an important
Right,
introduction.
and I think I think Tony read the thing earlier that this is not to outlaw bird feeders. This is, you know, and again, I can't imagine. I mean, I would say this: if I looked out the window and saw a couple of coyotes underneath a bird feeder chomping down on bird seed because of the type of bird feeder it was, or whatever, I may have a conversation with my neighbor and say, hey, I happen to notice that your bird feeder is, you know, feeding coyotes and we can't have that. I mean, I
Well,
think,
what happens, Peter, I'm glad you said that. So what happens is coyotes become protective that area. They
exactly,
become territorial of that food source. And so every time somebody walks by with their dog on a leash, and typically, you know, if it's in the front yard, it's right by the sidewalk. If there's coyotes in the area, they become aggressive. So
right,
now, again, town Nahant's not going to be driving down the street looking for bird feeders to write tickets. It's going
right,
to be, we've had some aggressive, you know, incidents, or we've had some sightings, or we've had some reports in this area. And then we're going out and walking that area and trying to find any potential food source as a potential problem. And we want to have a bylaw that gives us the authority to basically address a resident if an issue is occurring.
Yeah. And, you know, as far as optics and presenting this, a good place to start would be to take all of this and try to edit it down to an elevator speech. So edit it down to 2 sentences, 30 seconds.
If you can give me a 2 sentence, 30-second speech
Well,
on coyotes.
I know I'm not saying it's easy, but
No, I understand. It's gonna be I'm happy to move it. I don't think we're gonna be able to prevent discussion, but I will do my best to educate people, you know, leading
Make
up
it
to-
Article 99.
So the reason the next 2 articles are short-term rental, and we've typically always kept citizen petitions at the end. And so because you have a short-term rental bylaw presented by a committee, and you also have a short-term bylaw article presented by citizen petition, I have those back to back, and I had those at the end.
Oh, we're at the end.
I mean, we're at the end.
Oh,
You know,
great.
all 3 of these are going to be controversial, and you know, I have a feeling we're going to blow through the first 22 articles in, you know, 27 minutes, and then we're going to hit these 3 articles and be there the rest of the afternoon. I mean,
Too
but
bad we couldn't get the citizen petition to do what you did on Lowlands last year.
Tony, were you able to get the citizen petitioner together with the committee?
I'm still working on that. Both articles have now been sent to the planning board, and the planning board their job is to have a hearing and then produce a recommendation. I don't know where the planning board stands as far as the 2 articles go. And so I'm trying not to interfere with, you know, their process. In the past, those were funding articles that didn't involve the planning board, so it was a little bit easier for me to communicate with the residents and come up with that type of solution. Like I said, I don't want to.
Right.
yeah, this is different.
Yeah. But I'm working on it. The bigger part is the citizens petition article is long. And technically, we're supposed to put the entirety of that article that was submitted into the warrant. As you can see here, I have a small version in Article 25. But unless I get all those who sign the citizens petition to sign off on putting this in the warrant, then I may have to put the larger, full, complete text, which is gonna just make the warrant, multiple pages and,
Right.
and then I don't know, then the short-term rental bylaw, the bylaw presented by the committee, they wouldn't have their full text in it, but the citizen petition would have their full text in it. So I'm still trying to navigate that, work through that element of it. But that's all of them. The short-term rental committee, Article 24, they presented, what they ended up doing was they have a amendment to the zoning bylaw, and then they have a general bylaw amendment. The zoning, the portion of their article that impacts zoning is what will go in front of the planning board for their recommendation. Zoning bylaw amendments require a 2/3 vote. General bylaws require a simple majority. So Article 24 could either be one vote at a 2/3 majority threshold, or divided into two separate votes, the zoning portion being a 2/3 and the general portion being a simple majority.
And it doesn't have to be two separate articles?
It does not.
It does not.
That's my understanding from town council, but it's the moderator's meeting.
Yeah.
He may have a preference. I have yet to have, to sit down with him and talk through that yet.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
To me, you really need both to work, I think. So, I don't know. I don't know which way I land on it. So that's the warrant. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. Just wanted to point out, like, to the other members of the committee, like, obviously, we have the open space committee, maybe the fire, feeding wildlife amendment, which is already written. Obviously, we need to wait on citizens and short-term bylaw. I think there's some changes going on there, but those other ones, we could already have discussions on those and try and get those approved, or I shouldn't say approved, voted on for approval or not approval to recommend, so that we can get them out of the way.
Yes.
I think that's great. We talked about that anyway, right?
Yeah.
Getting done
Yep.
those that we could.
Okay, so before we take up that topic, are there any more questions about either the budget or the warrant? None? All right, so then, Peter, I think you're like spot on here. So let me, I think I can do this. I'm not sure. What are you seeing on your screen right now?
Your
That's the
schedule.
deadlines.
The schedule. All right, excellent. That's exactly what we wanted. Hey, look, a master of technology here.
It works.
It works. Oh my God. All right, so. Where are we? Okay, so we are, yeah, let's see, you are here, right?
Right.
You are here. And the way we've scheduled this out right now is next week, which is actually school vacation week, is we're covering police and fire. Are those folks ready and lined up?
We've teed that up. I think we'll be able to do it the week after next to meet with those two.
Right, we have to
Or-
get in touch with them tomorrow, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we gave them the times. They know when they're supposed to meet, when they're supposed to present. That's been
And-
done.
Then there
Yes.
shouldn't be anything to tee up, right?
They should be all set. I mean, I'll check with them again on email, but we emailed them about that time back
Yes.
as soon as we said it.
Oh, okay. All right. So as far as we know, that's still solid.
Yes,
Yes.
Then comes school.
Yep.
Are they done?
yeah.
Did
Tony
But
just sent us a very, his usual, very careful, very understandable budget. So that's all, and a presentation to go with it. Yep. He seems ready.
Okay. So he's ready.
Yep.
The next are kind of like 3 and 4 weeks out. So even if they're not ready now, they certainly have enough lead time if we notice them, ping them again. Right, so we should be good there. I don't know where,
They're in very good shape. They just have 2 more of their applications to review next week. And then they'll start their voting process.
okay,
Then
so
they're all in shape.
then that doing this on, like, what is this, March, the last week of March still seems very doable.
Yes,
Okay. So right now, we had scheduled the discussion of these non-recurring sort of articles, like the wildlife feeding and the open space and all the rest of that, for the first week of April. And it sounds like we could kind of sprinkle those into some of these other weeks and get ourselves a little bit ahead, as
we
to
could
Peter's.
possibly do a couple tonight.
We could. The only thing I'm a little reluctant about is it wasn't in the public notice.
Okay,
But I mean, otherwise, I'd be all for it. So I guess what I'm proposing is, can we do maybe police, fire, and then pick off one of the articles, and then the next week do school, and then do another one of those articles, and then notice the meetings that way.
yeah, and what about the week where we don't have a meeting scheduled?
The week
Is
we
there
don't-
one that we don't have one scheduled? No, sorry,
I don't-
that was last week.
That was last week.
Well, there must be some coming up because we have only every other week, right?
No, we're every week after.
We're every week. But
week.
if we take this articles piece of it and sprinkle it backwards, this may be that might be an open week.
Right. No, but I like the idea of getting, especially the ones that are recurring every year, that, sort of a template, just get going on those.
Yeah, and actually probably the way to do it would be put the articles related to police and fire in here,
Mhm.
right?
Or just put,
Like that.
or voting on vote articles that
Yeah.
kind of leaves it open.
Oh, you mean down here? This is the final vote on them.
Right, but I know I'm talking when we're doing police and fire, we could do not just related ones, but others as well.
Yep. Yeah, the quicker we get through these, the better off we'll be.
Yes. Thank you. I'm typing them this year.
All right. So let's see. I think that's what we'll do.
Excellent.
And I'll propose, I'll send around an email while I'll propose kind of how we can divvy those up. And go back and notice the meetings accordingly. All right,
Excellent.
all right.
Great.
And that's that. And that, well, the only other item remaining on our agenda is public forum.
Great.
So is
We have
there,
anybody, we have any public?
we did have a
Yeah.
guest.
We do have public.
Joe Phillips, tell us how we did.
I'm public. This I had no expectations, so I have nothing to compare this against. But I think watching the process is informative. As far as having opinions on any of the other subjects, I think I'm too new and don't have the verbiage on all the things presented in the warrant to really know more about those. If that makes sense.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, thanks for the feedback.
You guys were awesome tonight. Public comment.
Thanks, Josh.
Outstanding job.
Thanks, Josh. You're not
My
exactly
night- my
unbiased, but
night's
we'll take it.
entertainment.
Yeah,
You guys are way better than the short-term housing committee meeting.
Oh, careful.
careful.
This is recorded.
Yeah, you don't want to start any talk on social media.
So,
Did you
sorry,
really?
I meant the affordable housing.
Okay, and I guess
Board of Selectmen.
we should probably ask Jeff as well, Jeff Lewis. Who is,
Bob, can you hear me?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick question for my own curiosity. That $1.2 million debt shift, what is that average, the average taxpayer's piece of that?
boy, I think that's an Allison question.
Yeah,
It is. I don't have that available.
It's based on, it's based on the assessed value of your property.
Right. So
it's
right
not-
now it would increase my estimated increase in the tax rate would be $972 per $1,000 of value. But we don't know what our new growth amounts are yet for next year. I estimated that pretty low, so that could change. But let me just,
but even with the shift, 972 seems very reasonable.
correct, yeah.
Puts us in the bottom 10%.
Yep, it's still fairly low.
That's the only thing I got.
Okay, so it sounds like a motion to adjourn is in order.
I will-
Moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
all right, roll call.
Okay. Barba,
Aye.
Beatty,
Aye.
McMacken,
Aye.
Charmy, I, Warren,
Hey,
Vanderslice,
Aye.
DeHora.
Aye.
Did I get everybody? I guess so. Unanimous. Amazing.
All right, excellent. Thank you
thank
all.
you, Tony.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
No, thank you,
Have a
everybody.
good night.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
So fun.
Good night.
Yes.